And we are back. Welcome back to the Square. I am your host, Curtis the Fifth.
And I'm Curtis the Fourth.
The amount of news that came out this week, it's been insane, and we'll get to all of it. As you guys all know how this works by now, we start with the injury report, then we'll dive into headlines and whatnot. So let's start there. Injury report is, thank God, so short this week. Only 5 names are really on the list. I do have one Kansas City name. Basically, Noah Gray, ankle. He injured that in the middle of the game last week. So just wanted to give him his honorable mention there, as they are now out. San Francisco as well. Got 2 guys on the list, actually. Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles. He injured his knee. Linebacker. In Dre Greenlaw injured his calf in the game last week versus the Rams. Really, these 2 teams are super healthy going into this Super Bowl. Cincinnati and LA. Only 2 injuries on the list for, or 1 injury on the list for both. And unfortunately, they're actually pretty big pieces to both teams. Cincinnati, CJ Uzomah, tight end, goes down, and he actually is hopeful to play in the game with his knee injury. I don't know if it's a knee sprain, a knee.
I didn't hear what it was.
But his knee basically got blown out in that game, so they are hopeful though that he could return. Whereas Tyler Higbee, his MCL sprain, they are almost certain he will not be back. So both of them had pretty nasty knee injuries, and both of them are in jeopardy of missing. Whereas CJ Uzomah actually has some sort of a hope that he'll be back, whereas it is almost foregone conclusion Tyler Higbee will not be playing in the Super Bowl.
And both guys are like 4th and 5th options in the pass game anyway, so it does not really matter at the end of the day.
I think it is a bigger deal if CJ
blocking.
Well, no, for CJ Uzomah specifically, because he's really Tyler Boyd is, he's a 3rd option technically, but Uzomah is the 3rd guy. They don't really like throwing him the ball out of the backfield.
That's speaking to Tyler Boyd's production, though. About 4.
I think that puts Mixon at 4. That puts Tyler Boyd at 5 and Uzomah at 3rd, because Uzomah's kind of his check down. I'll quickly just dump it off to you.
That only came as of late.
Yeah.
He was not doing that in the season at all.
But he's gotten way more comfortable with Uzomah in the last 4, 5, 6 weeks.
Uzomah is the plan B of the team. That's when they can't get the quick strikes. Uzomah time. Now checking down.
Which is huge. That's a very big piece of a lot of teams' offenses. So if he's not able to go, or he's not able to be 100% for this game, that's going to be a major, major hit for them. But let's get to the headlines. There's some stuff to talk about. There's quite a bit to get to. Trying to figure out which way I want to attack this, because there's a lot of depressing and upsetting news to get to, as well as some nicer things to talk about. Let's get this one out of the way for sure. Damon Arnett was arrested this past week, jailed for his gun charges. Damon Arnett from the Las Vegas Raiders this season was eventually cut by them because of he put up a stupid video threatening people with drugs, guns, and all this stuff. That was in the midst of the multiple DUI charges that were filed against guys on that roster. So, yep, Damon Arnett is officially now cut by Kansas City. He was actually cut by Kansas City just before the championship game, because he has now been arrested and is officially being charged in this allegation. So, looks like he will not be back in the NFL anytime soon. See if he can clear up some of this stuff and get back into the league. Otherwise, he's basically done. So just wanted to get that out of the way. So let's talk about something a little bit more lighthearted. There was a couple of retirements that happened over this past week. I don't know if anybody's heard. I mean, they're pretty quiet. Nobody really discussed any of this already.
I ain't heard about any retirements. I'm still dealing with the funeral, the wake of.
Yeah. Well,
Chiefs
officially, Ben Roethlisberger announced his retirement this past week before the AFC NFC Championship games, and then right after that, the day of the games, we got the report that he was thinking about retiring. And that was a possibility. And then Adam Schefter actually this before the games tweeted out that he plans on it, and that was kind of the topic of conversation all of last weekend. And then we get to Monday, and he still hasn't officially retired. Still hadn't talked to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers or anything like that. And then just a couple of days later, he puts up a post on Instagram thanking the Bucs organization and his family and a lot of other people, excluding New England in that post. He did later put up an Instagram story thanking Bill Belichick and the New England organization. But Tom Brady is done. Tampa Bay, that one is the one that shocks me, because I really did think that he was going to try to come back and play year 45 out. And that would have been, I think that would have been his send-off year, whether they would have tried to make it to the Super Bowl or not. Mm-hmm. So this one actually shocked me. Well, it shocked me when the initial report that he was thinking about retiring came out. When he actually did it, didn't shock me as much, because once the thought process came out, I was like, okay, the only reason why this is a thing is because he actually is thinking about it this time. It's not like this is a unfounded report. Mm-hmm. And so that's when I was like, okay, this is probably true. So once he officially did it, then I was like, okay, like, I'm not surprised, but congrats. And I'm struggling to figure out what football without Tom Brady is going to look like.
Yeah, you have never seen.
I've never seen it.
The dark side. Yeah.
Which is funny, because I've been a major Tom Brady fan my entire football watching career, so I haven't seen it as this bleak time in in NFL history as a lot of other NFL fans do. I've been just watching it for the greatness that is 10 Super Bowl visits, 7 Super Bowl championships. Like that literally does not happen. He has had 2 Hall of Fame careers in one, and I've gotten to witness the whole damn thing.
Yeah, man, he's gonna be the LeBron James of the NFL. I mean, what do you want me to tell you?
But where does Tampa go from here?
Back where they started 2 years ago, middle of the pack. You know,
did they know this going into the season, that he possibly could have thought about this? Or
actually, they're kind of in some uncharted territory, because for the first time probably in about 9 seasons, they are faced with not having not only Tom Brady, but no Jameis Winston either. So I don't know what the identity of Tampa Bay is these days.
They have a Super Bowl contending roster with no quarterback. Oh, I'm sorry, they have Kyle Trask. Hey, are we really
quarterback like you? That's Trask we don't trust.
Do you think that they should look? If we're going to talk about having a lesser quarterback at the helm with this roster, do we go trade for Davis Mills?
Stop.
Kyle Trask for Davis Mills?
Stop.
No, don't do it. I know where you're going with this. Do not do this. Do not do this.
It just happened. It just happened.
Do not. Did this really just click in your head right now?
How did I not see? This has been a very busy week.
He's gonna do this. If you say the name that I think you're thinking, oh no.
Look here, yo. Look, I heard this very weird report, and the team they were bringing up, I wasn't feeling this at all. I was just like, I just don't think it's a good fit. But the Tampa Bay, y'all better hear me out, America. You already know where this is going.
Yeah, I do, and I want to turn off your mic.
There's nobody out there. You're not gonna find anything in the draft. Who's the backup again?
Don't do this, Kyle Trask.
Okay, was he the only one who?
I think he's the only quarterback on the roster.
Kyle Trask, the draft. There's not a lot of stuff going on in the free agency. There's not a lot of stuff going on in free agency. There's a franchise trying to give somebody away. Look, come on. Do I need to finish or you gonna finish this?
No, you're gonna finish. I'm not gonna say the name because I know exactly what it is.
Look, Tampa. Look, after you exhaust all of your options and all your resources, and you need to circle the wagons and come back. All I'm saying is there's a deal on the table. Jimmy G is ready. What better way is to have the understudy come right behind the man and take this team places they ain't never been, which is to the Super Bowl on track C. Ain't gonna be on the A track, but we gonna do the same thing down here. We gonna get to the same destination. I'm just saying, I could see this man getting over here and backdooring Tampa Bay into the damn Super Bowl. No. Coupled with there's gonna be some kind of stumble in LA because I'm not by no way taking that aside. All I'm saying, what do you do to keep Tampa Bay afloat? That's all I'm saying. I think he would be the best option. I'll leave it at that. That's available right now.
Well, there's many options available. I mean, they could go get Deshaun Watson if they really wanted to.
Nah, I ain't gonna sell the farm.
They
don't have any more money like this. I don't see no way. I just don't see it.
They brought back 22 starters.
They back
the year before. Like they can
and just for 3 number ones, and I know they're gonna want players. I think they're gonna no. It's just that doesn't make like if I'm Tampa Bay, I'm like, look, we've invested in all of this, and now I'm gonna give up 3 number ones just to secure this quarterback. These dudes gonna drop off. That's all around you anyway. It's just it's a bad deal. I get it. It's a great fit, talent wise, but it just I don't know what type of wizardry they think they're gonna try to pull off the second time. I just don't think it just doesn't.
I don't
like
sense. I don't like it for Jimmy G because the whole sentiment the entire year, and I already know what the ESPN headline is gonna be. Oh, can Jimmy G do what Papa Brady could have did with this team? Can he take him to the Super Bowl? And that's going to be the only. They're not going to give Jimmy G the props when he wins games. They're just like they're doing in San Francisco. They're not going to give him the props then. They're not going to. They're not going to just take what he's been doing week in and week out for what it is. It's just going to be a way to keep Tom Brady in the news cycle while he's not playing football. And at this point, yes. I have enjoyed every single second of Tom Brady's career. I have watched so many games that had Tom Brady featured in it. Some that I was rooting for him, and most that I was rooting for him, and some that I was rooting against him, and he's won them. And it's not that I'm tired of hearing about him, but if he's retired, I want to talk about the guys that are freaking on the field. I don't want to keep doing this comparison to ghosts that are not in the NFL anymore.
That is what we do here in the NFL,
okay? No. That is what they do. That is not what we do here. We talk about the product that's on the field.
Let me tell you something, man. Let me tell you who the real Joku was, okay? No, I'm just going. Go ahead.
So I don't like that because that's going to be the topic of conversation all of the 2022-2023 season, and that's not what I want to be talking about. What I want to be talking about is just Jimmy G doing something for his team this year and what he is doing. I don't want to have to keep comparing him to Tom Brady.
That's fine. You don't have to, and that's more than fine. That was that absurd story. They're talking about him going to Pittsburgh. I don't like that. That's the bad fit. That just doesn't fit at all.
Why would Pittsburgh not fit?
Why would it? It's just talking
about. Let's compare Pittsburgh to San Francisco. Defense. They've got that stud on defense in TJ Watt. They've got
it's not a good style of play.
Their style of play is the exact same. It's we will do everything. Well, it should be the exact same because for some reason they did not want to run the ball with Najee Harris this past season, but they do have him now, and he is one of the best running backs in the AFC right now. And let him come in and let them run through Najee Harris. You can go get another running back this season.
Eye test. It doesn't pass the eye test for me. It doesn't feel like a good fit.
The issue with them is the fact that they don't have a wide receiver, but they don't have true wide receivers over in San Francisco either. I mean, Debo Samuel, it would be that weapon, and I guess you would equate that to Chase Claypool, which I don't like.
Yeah, I was
And then,
wow,
but I
okay.
do like Pat Freiermuth. I mean, he's actually a pretty good tight end in the AFC.
I can see George Kittle in him.
Obviously, he's not George Kittle, but George Kittle is more of a blocking tight end. George Kittle's not the I'm going to. He's not. George Kittle is not Travis Kelce, where I'm catching and I'm basically just this massive linebacker looking wide receiver out here.
Look, nobody was Kelsey in the league. But
exactly.
Go ahead.
That's what I'm saying. And so Pat Freiermuth is in that Travis Kelce prototype, but he's not. Obviously, he's not that skill, but he is that type of player. So he is going to be a receiving tight end that can go out there and catch better than what I think George Kittle can do.
Maybe.
George Kittle to me, his
like
value comes from being an extra lineman and his blocking ability and his willingness to block.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where that comes from, in my opinion. He is a decent pass catcher, obviously, and it's hard to bring him down, but that's because he's freaking 285 pounds and runs basically a 4.6. Like he's
right.
So that would be the difference. I mean, I think Pat Freiermuth is probably slower, but he can catch the ball just the same. He runs routes probably better than George Kittle does. George Kittle just tries to go to a spot, whereas I think Pat Freiermuth actually has a route tree. So I would say that he would be able to utilize Pat Freiermuth. They would need a weapon. They would need another receiver out there, and they would need to add another running back. Outside of that, I think that fit would be just fine. And then you have, even to me, a way better head coach in Mike Tomlin.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it like that. I don't know. I get it.
You just don't like Pittsburgh, and I get that. You don't like Pittsburgh for anybody.
Not a good fit, man. It just Jimmy G ain't that dude.
Okay.
I mean, not for that. I mean, could he make them better? That was the whole point of the conversation. It's like, is he better than Ben Roethlisberger? And they were like, yeah, but does he really move the needle? I mean, he moves the needle, but it's not significant. And that's not just saying because of what he brings. It's just what he's going into. It's just, look, I would prefer him if he's going to go somewhere competitive, go somewhere a little better than there. That's all. That's all.
I don't know how we got to this conversation because this is more about Tom Brady's retirement.
I don't know, Tom Brady retiring, and there's an opening in Tampa, and here we go.
Yeah. So, regardless, Tom Brady is now not going to be playing any more football for our enjoyment or despair for some NFL fans. And then one other retirement that went completely under the radar with two Hall of Fame quarterbacks retiring. Brandon Graham, defenseman for Philadelphia. He's retiring as well. He will not be playing any longer. So I know it's Philadelphia, but Brandon Graham is a name that does carry some weight in the NFL. So that's that. Do we get to let's run through some of the hiring that's happened over the last week and a half, and then we'll get to two just horrible stories that have broken over this last week.
Okay.
So let's go through the staff changes so far. First things first, I mean, I did this in chronological order, so props to me. Round of applause for myself. First things that happened from our last conversation here about staff changes. Pittsburgh GM Kevin Colbert actually resigned, so he is expected to resign after the NFL draft. This is the issue with Pittsburgh. Why? Why the hell would you let this man draft one more time just to put somebody else new to run the team?
That's how they do it in Pittsburgh.
Absolutely stupid. We saw the same thing a few years ago with Houston. Why are we? It doesn't make sense. We saw the same thing with the Jets with Adam Gase. They let the GM from York come in, draft the team. Then they fired him, put a new GM, and then they hired Adam Gase. And Adam Gase didn't want Le'Veon Bell. And I don't think anybody from that draft class is still on that team. It's like, that is Pittsburgh. That's stupid. I don't understand it. Just if he's going to resign and step down, he should not have the autonomy to draft the future of this franchise.
Mm-hmm.
So that's that. We didn't get to talk about it last week because it happened just after we got off air. New Orleans head coach Sean Payton stepped down and he resigns.
I don't even.
And it was funny because I mentioned it in last week's
You did.
episode that it was a possibility because he hadn't come back. And then literally I posted the episode and think 12 hours later, news breaks. He's stepping down as from the head coaching position.
You want all insider track information about the NFL or any other sports related thing? Just hit it the comments. We'll just share some of our juicy secrets and the things that we just kind of hear about at water cooler. So yeah, keep moving on.
I mentioned it. I said it, and it literally happened the very next day.
I remember I was like, shocked. I thought this is a thing. You know, like. Yeah.
You were looking at me when I was talking about it like, that's not gonna happen.
No, I'm like, are you serious? Why would he step down? Why wouldn't he step down? I don't know. The hell would I know? Like, obviously, I'm not following New Orleans, so
after 16 season, he's done with New Orleans, and I'm gonna say it right now.
Or is New Orleans done with him?
No, he was done with New Orleans. I'm saying it right now for the record. Sean Payton will be the Dallas head coach in 2023.
Ah, damn. It's another year.
Mike McCarthy is going to do everything to lose the job. Jerry Jones will eventually fire him, and boom, here comes hero Sean Payton in for the rescue. Now, keep in mind, since he is resigning and stepping down, New Orleans still does own the rights to Sean Payton if he does want to come back. So technically, I think anybody that hires him would either need to have some sort of discussion with New Orleans for New Orleans to either cut him, or they would actually have to do a trade for a head coach, which I've never seen before. I know it's happened in the past, but I've never seen it. So that would be interesting. I think his contract goes through 2024 or 2025. I can't remember. So
wow, some little wonky kind of way. This is like a coach's version of restricted free agency.
Yeah, basically.
What a twist.
Now, some actual hiring that happened last week kicked off with Chicago. They actually made the first GM hire not the first, because Joe Schoen was hired before, but Chicago hired Ryan Poles from Kansas City as GM. So former Kansas City executive for 13 seasons, spent the last season with Kansas City as the player personnel director. And then right after that, Minnesota goes and hires Chicago Scraps in Kwesi Adofo-Mensah as their GM. They actually wanted Ryan Poles as well. And Chicago said, nope, we're not letting him go. And they hired him, and he actually started at, I think, 6 a.m. the next day after he was hired. So pretty quick turnaround there. But Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, his contract was released, $12 million for the next 4 years he will be in Minnesota. And he spent the last 2 seasons as Cleveland's VP of football operations. So that's his background right there.
Congrats.
Denver actually made the first head coaching hire with Nathaniel Hackett being their new head coach. So that was exhausted all through last week. People talking about Nathaniel Hackett being Green Bay's offensive coordinator this past season. Now is going to be the head coach over in Denver. Also leading to the theory that Aaron Rodgers will be the next quarterback of the Denver Broncos. So
good riddance.
Let's hope. Chicago also ended up hiring their next head coach as well in Matt Eberflus, former defensive coordinator of the Indianapolis Colts. And they also hired a OC and defensive coordinator, but bigger news, offensive coordinator Luke Getsy, passing game coordinator and quarterback coach of Green Bay, is now going to be in Chicago as the offensive coordinator, calling plays, because Matt Eberflus is going to hand over all play calling duties on both offensive and defensive sides of the ball. He is actually going to be a quintessential head coach, he has stated. So he's going to oversee the entire team. He's not going to focus in on one.
Interesting.
So
Okay.
I like it. I like Matt Eberflus, but I know it's a controversial topic. Right after Chicago did this though and hired Matt Eberflus, I guess Dan Quinn was saying I'm going to Chicago or nowhere else because the second Chicago ended up hiring Matt Eberflus, Dan Quinn says, "Hey, sorry, not doing this. Going back to Dallas." And he declined the rest of his interviews. I think he had 2 more like finalist interviews elsewhere. I can't remember where. But he said he's staying in Dallas. He's going to be the defensive coordinator over there, and he'll try again next year, basically. The Giants, controversially, as we have learned of late, hired Brian Dable as their next head coach to pair up with Joe Schoen.
It's over.
We'll talk about it in a second. And then the Vegas Raiders, they made some pretty big news as they ended up hiring both Dave Ziegler as their GM from New England, and then followed right up by hiring Josh McDaniels less than 12 hours later as their next head coach.
I like what they did. That was nice. Vegas, I would be excited if I'm a Vegas fan. I'm kind of excited about those.
Still got to figure out if they're actually, because I don't know if Josh McDaniels is going to enjoy working with Derek Carr. So we'll see.
Remember, wasn't he the coach with Tim Tebow
Josh
in
McDaniels?
Denver? Yeah, didn't he get like the first year with him?
Maybe, I don't remember.
Man, it's such a blur back then. Because I mean, he got a lot. Because I mean, McDaniel got a lot of flack in Denver, but he didn't. Per how I remembered it, he didn't do all that bad there. And he didn't have a lot of.
He
weapons.
just didn't live up to expectations.
He didn't have a lot either.
True,
which is kind of he was on a very short leash there.
And he was super young. I mean,
I got that.
He goes back, and he's basically been there. He's been back in New England for another 8 years.
But yeah, he went. But it was like it wasn't like where they just like, oh, his contract ended. He went over to New England. They fired him.
Yeah.
Man, they didn't let the man gracefully leave or nothing. So he goes over and he just hones his skills over there, and in New England. I think he had an offer or two, to go elsewhere, and then he chose, no, I'm just gonna stay here and hang back.
He did accept the Indianapolis job, and then famously,
right,
just skipped out on the press conference.
I'm gonna decline that.
He did his best, Bill Belichick.
11 and a half hours. So leave y'all high and dry.
Yeah,
but I like him. Now years removed now, and now he's over in Vegas, and definitely. I think it's I'm gonna say it's a fresh new start, but it's a fresh start, not necessarily a new start, but a fresh start with McDaniels and can get out of the shadow of this Gruden thing. It's kind of there, but it's kind of not there.
It's not there anymore. I mean, they had their buffer time, and I mean, with the former the interim head coach there, I am a little bit disappointed that they did not give him more of a shot at retaining the job, but.
No, I understand.
Regardless, if it wasn't Josh McDaniels, if they were going after a guy like Doug Peterson, or if they were going to be the ones to hire Luke Getsy or something like that, then I would have been like, come on, are you serious? But It's Josh McDaniels. It is a prominent name. It is a guy who does carry some weight in the league, as he has been the play caller of one of the most successful systems in all of the NFL of the last decade. So, I mean, I can't really knock the hire by any means, and I'm excited to see what Josh McDaniels does with this opportunity this time.
Here.
Some other lesser, some quieter hires that happened, or promotions rather. Green Bay ended up promoting Adam Stanovich. He was under Luke Getsy for the last 2 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently there is some controversy with the fact that, like, basically Green Bay, from the sound of it, they were trying to retain Luke Getsy and Stanovich. They were trying to keep them both. I think they knew they were going to lose Nathaniel Hackett. And like at the end of it, now hindsight being 2020, a lot of Green Bay fans are like, "Oh, we played everybody. He was the only one that we really wanted in Stanovich to stay and whatever." And I'm like, "Oh, he's the offensive line coordinator over there in Green Bay. It was. Now he's the OC." But when they said that, I was like, "No, let's not try to have revisionist history here." Going into this, you guys wanted to retain everybody if you could, especially Nathaniel Hackett. But you guys realized, no, that's not going to happen. So you're like, well, Luke Getsy's going to be our guy. You guys promoted Luke Getsy last week for a day until he was hired by Chicago. And he took that job and said, no, I'm going to go call plays in Chicago.
Right.
And so I don't know what to really take away from it. I mean, Adam Stanovich, like, yes, he probably is a decent offensive coordinator. I mean, he's been under the tutelage of Nathaniel Hackett for some time now. But at the end of the day, like, it wasn't your first guy. And Adam Stanovich isn't going to be calling plays. It's going to be Matt LaFleur. So he's technically the OC and head coach over there. So he's kind of just offensive coordinator by name only. So I don't know. I mean, again, I do think Adam Stanovich is probably he's orchestrated one of the best offensive lines in the NFC for quite some time up until this last season. So like, I'm not saying that it's a bad move to promote him, but I think you would have promoted any of the ones that you would have kept.
Yeah.
So all I have to say there, because Green Bay fans they're going into a spiral. I think that they are panicking right now.
Say it with me. Jordan Love.
Hey,
save us.
You really want it? I went out of your way to get that one.
Jordan Love, save
Buffalo
us.
is going to be adding Joe Brady to their coaching staff. I don't know if they're actually making him the OC. I don't believe that they're making him the OC. I think he's just being added on to the offensive coaching staff over there. So that's going to be an interesting hire over there. And then Jacksonville finally, actually just this morning, released that they have hired former NFL head coach and now Jacksonville head coach Doug Peterson will be running the show down there.
I like this one. I like this fit. It's I think that's sensible. After this Urban Meyer
debacle.
Fiasco. Yeah, after that debacle fiasco, God, just whatever. Once that ended, just to get a coach that is solid, that is grounded, and can get grab the reins of this franchise and get them back, kind of going down the right path again. Because obviously they completely lost the year. This last year has just been a wash. So I mean, outside of the little flash in the pans 9-6 victory over Buffalo, there's not much to take away from last year positively for Jacksonville. But Doug Peterson, respectable coach. I don't think he's the greatest thing walking around here, but I'll be hard pressed to put a lot of coaches in front of him that's in the league right now, coaching, or some of these coordinators. I wouldn't necessarily take a slew of coordinators over this guy. Yeah, he's proven. But him being put in a situation with a very young Jacksonville team, I like that. I think Jacksonville needs some type of, they need discipline, and they need someone that can guide and direct them.
They need anything that's not Urban Meyer. That's my sentiment.
Yeah, but then see, they were a bad team before Urban Meyer, so.
And they became worse. They just need to get back to being just
worse,
generic bad.
That's like that's like Lord of the Rings stuff. When you
gotta crawl before you can walk.
You
gotta walk before you can run.
No, I'm saying, I went down to the deepest dungeon on the highest mountain. What high, deep? What is that? What tables of measurements are we talking?
They got to get their head above water again.
That's what I'm trying to. It's just conversion of worlds, man. It's. Yeah. With that being said, Doug Peterson, I think, can at least, if nothing else, he stirs the ship back in the right direction. And as soon as it pushes and starts going, he's going to get the axe. Simple as that. But I think he understands that because
And I agree, and I do think I'll say it's not a bad hire. As all I'm gonna say in that regard.
all right,
But
not
here,
Philly
because here is why. This is the reason why I have this sentiment, and it's because of a different story. And let's get into it. There's been 9 head coaching openings in the NFL this season, more than usual. And the reason why there's more than usual is because 2 African American head coaches wrongfully got fired, and that is in clearly Brian Flores, which we will get into in a second, and Houston, David Culley.
Okay.
Neither one of those 2 should have been fired this past season. I know David Culley was basically given the job understanding that he was the interim head coach. But first of all, you still haven't hired anybody telling me that you didn't even think about who you truly were trying to go after to upgrade off of David Culley. But 2, David Culley was given the crappiest situation coming into the season. If we all remember, everybody suspected Houston was the worst option, and that's the reason why they were the last to hire their guy last season, because nobody wanted to work for them. And David Culley did the interview, he wowed them, he got the job, he comes in, and he actually doubled the amount of wins than me and you thought this Houston team would have gotten.
Yeah.
I mean, gotten 4 wins with that roster was amazing. And the biggest thing was that Davis Mills didn't look like a bad draft pick this season.
Oh, he actually looked like a very good prospect. Actually,
yes.
Can actually build something with this guy.
Exactly. And so I'm looking at it, and I'm going into the playoffs. And I'm looking at it like, all right, well, let's see what he can do in year 2. Let's see what a full offseason with him calling the shots, and obviously they have their GM over there who's calling the plays. But if anybody should have got fired, it was the GM for promising that they would have had some sort of headway with Deshaun Watson when nothing has been changed with the Deshaun Watson situation.
Right. Tell me Brandon Cooks, David Mills, and Rex Burkhead gonna make you tremble in your boots. Man, get out of here.
I mean, they fought tooth and nail every single game. They had only, I think, 3 or 4 actual blowouts this last season, and they upset Houston, or they upset Tennessee once, and almost did it again in Week 18.
Oh, you had it right the first time.
So I'm looking at so when we're looking at the hiring process right now, and like I said, 2 African American head coaches were clearly wrongfully fired, in my opinion. And then we start hiring guys. Like I said, Matt Eberflus was hired. Nathaniel Hackett was hired. Last week, Brian Dable was hired. Doug Peterson was hired. And so 5 of the 9 head coaching openings, Josh McDaniels was hired. 5 of the 9 head coaching openings have now been filled. That's over half. Not a single one of those guys are African American. And on top of that, not just African American, every single one of them is white. And going into the last season, we had only 3 black head coaches. And like I said, 2 of them were wrongfully fired. And if we go back to the rule that is the top of the conversation every single offseason, the Rooney Rule. When the Rooney Rule was instituted, how many African-American head coaches were there? Do you remember?
The Rooney Rule was instituted?
Yeah.
What year was it?
I think it was 2000, either 3 or 5. It doesn't even matter. There were 3.
I was going to say 1.
There were 3 black head coaches. Going into this last season, there were 3 black head coaches. That's no progress. And now there's 1, and Mike Tomlin, on the team that has the owner who implemented the damn rule in the first place.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, we've gone backwards. And I am sick and tired of people saying progress takes time.
Yeah, a whole lot of time, according to y'all.
You've had almost, since just the Rooney Rule was implemented, you've had 20 freaking years. Let's give it a nice round number. You've had 20 years, and we've gone backwards. What more time do I need? At the time, we didn't have a single minority owner, let alone a black owner in the NFL. Ow. And now we have one in Shad Khan, who runs the worst ran organization in all of the NFL, that the NFL is specifically trying to ship off to London. They don't even want that in America. They don't want the minority. He's not even black. The dude's from Pakistan. They don't even want him to represent the U.S. They want to ship him off.
Are we sensing a connection here? Because I mean, this is interesting. Say
more. I will say more because also there's only 3 black GMs during this hiring cycle.
That's progress because they didn't have 3 black GMs back then, so that is progress. And I mean, anything moving forward is progress. This is what stalls out the problem because this again we're dealing with sports related affirmative action here, and it's just it's exhausting. Yeah, so much further we need to go. Yeah, it's gonna be this back and forth, and what you were saying with the Brian Flores kind of ripping the Band-Aid off an issue that has been here, and we kind of circle this every year. Just kind of got blown in their face this year.
Yeah, but what pisses me off the most about the reason why this is a topic of conversation more this year than it has in prior seasons. Let's just go with the Brian Flores lawsuit because he has filed a lawsuit against the NFL and 3 separate NFL teams, alleging racism and racist practices in their hiring processes. And with that, there are multiple. If you read the actual 8-page lawsuit that he filed, there's so much in connection with that is specifically about race, and specifically about during the times that he was going through his hiring processes, whether it was with Denver and doing interviews with them, or his time in Miami, or dealing with this latest instance with the New York Giants. He's going through all of that, and in that, I mean, most of it is about that. He eventually just puts this one, it's one paragraph is about the incentive-based money that Stephen Ross, owner of the Miami Dolphins, tried to offer and incentivize Brian Flores to tank games in the 2019 season to try to go get, eventually it was Joe Burrow, but initially he was trying to get Tua Tagovailoa, which he actually ended up with. So the whole reason why it's more, and this is the reason why a lot of people are talking about this, is specifically not because of the racist hiring process and the racism within the hiring process. It's because, the integrity of the Shield is now in danger.
Oh, not that.
Our money is now in danger because now what happens to our sports betting sponsors? It's not about the actual issues with the gut. It pisses me off that we're not talking about that. It's just we don't have African Americans in positions of power. The league is 70 to 75% African American player base wise. That's your freaking cash cow. That's what's making people watch football week in and week out, are the players on the damn field. And for those guys to put literally their lives on the line, we see what CTE is doing to Antonio Brown. We see what it did to Aaron Hernandez.
Right.
There's countless cases of it. With beyond reproach, that we've seen what brain injuries are doing to the players that to deal with this every single day, and they do it voluntarily without question. They will take the Toradol shots week in and week out just to continue to play a game that we all love watching for our entertainment. And I'm not complaining about that, because it is an unfortunate reality with what this game is, but we all buck up on Sundays, we get cozy on our couches, and we watch these gladiators go at it week in and week out. I've been doing it for over a decade. You have been doing it since I've been born. Like, it is without question that we do this, and we all understand that, and we all know it, but we all ignore it.
Yeah, it's been normalized, and again, we just circling the wagons like we always do.
But now, what we're talking about, and I actually had to make my first TikTok video today, because some racist white kid from Tennessee says that, oh, I love the NFL, and there's no way it could be racist, and he cowardly turned off his stitches and duets on TikTok. I know most of you old heads won't know what that means, but it's a way of responding to videos.
I figured it was something like that.
The younger ones out here, you'll understand.
By the way, I'm not old, but go ahead.
You have an old soul. Regardless, he wouldn't allow people to respond to it easily. He knew when he put up his video that he was being racist, and he was just trying to gaslight people. And I responded to it, and I put my thoughts in the comments. But the reason why I had to respond to it with my own video is because he specifically came at me with this one comment, and I'll read it verbatim just so that I don't F this up.
Go ahead.
The NFL makes more black millionaires than any other corporation in the world. All caps, facts.
That's a broad stroke statement if I ain't heard one.
They make more black millionaires than any other corporation because they didn't do any work. They didn't go out there and put their lives on the line. They didn't put their lives on hold to play the NFL game. You know, Tom Brady famously has a rift between him and his wife, his supermodel wife, that constantly is talking about how much the NFL is effing him over. Is that whole situation, that putting your life on hold isn't something that we're sacrificing, or African Americans, 70 to 75% of the player base is sacrificing to continue to play this game for your entertainment? Or we're just gonna ignore that.
Mm-hmm.
All the work that they put in back in college and high school. That never happened.
No.
Also, that I can hopefully make it out of this league without CTE and traumatic brain injuries, and hopefully live a regular life after the fact with my millions of dollars that were just bestowed upon me for no other reason.
Right.
By the way, most NFL players don't make $1 million in their career because they get $150K because that's the veterans minimum, and they play under that for 3 years as the average lifespan in the NFL is.
Yeah. Needless, all the expenses that they never talk about, and fees and things.
And don't even get healthcare after the fact that they get cut by a team. They have to take on that medical bill by itself, but we don't talk about that because that's not the fun part about football.
No, not at all.
To say that this league isn't racist is it's childish, and it's America for you. Let's just ignore the problem, because by the way, that wasn't even the point that I had made to this. I don't even know how old he's a grown ass man. I just call him a child because he's being a child, but he's a grown ass man. Does not understand that wasn't even the point that I was making, that they make money. 70 to 75% of the player base is African American. Why then is less than 6% of the men in power in the NFL, whether it's a head coach, GM, owner, less than 6% of those roles are filled by African Americans, or not even African Americans, just minorities in general. Because black people can't think. I'm preaching to the choir here, but I mean, I learned most of this.
I admire your passion.
It pisses me off because I understand that there are differing views in the fact that it's just not something that you're aware of. But to blatantly ignore it while people are screaming about it and giving you irrefutable evidence of it.
Right.
You don't even need Brian Flores' lawsuit to talk about because I said this in my video. Just because one white person doesn't perceive to be racist, I'll just leave it there because that's a whole nother conversation in itself. Or one white person over here doesn't perceive to be racist, or one white person over here doesn't perceive to be racist, does not mean that systematic oppression and racism doesn't exist.
Right.
The system is flawed. The system is broken, and that is what our whole point has freaking been. Even Stephen A. Smith, the golden child of the worst sports network in all of history, is said this multiple times. But because he's black, we only want to talk about him when he's telling guys to stay off the weed, or Aaron Rodgers is such a bad man.
Interesting.
That's all he's known for. Whereas most of the time he's talking about there is systematic issues with these leagues. Not just the NFL, but the NFL is the worst of them all. Hey,
it's an age-old problem that,
and that's
as an NFL fan, we have had to learn to accept and endure simultaneously with the game we love to watch.
And why I don't have any hope for anything to change. Like, as much as we're talking about it today, we've been talking about it for 20 damn years. And we've gone backwards. Why would I have any hope that this lawsuit is going to change anything?
Good question.
Because, by the way, in our next topic, we found that the NFL loves to cover things up. I mean, do you have anything to add on to the Brian Flores conversation before we move on?
I think it's just unfortunate that the situation has come this far, and even bigger than that, to some degree, from an NFL standpoint, why does Sam doesn't have a job? Not so much, I understand what happened with New York and all that, and text messages with Bill Belichick.
How does Bill know about this beforehand? Well, we know how, but let's
like, obviously,
let's not put the cart before the horse.
Freaking Junior GM over
Bill
here.
Belichick knows everything. No.
Yeah, junior commissioner over here.
Don't take that title away from Jerry Jones.
His own world. He think he's the emperor.
He owns the NFL.
I'm the emperor. Like, okay.
More power.
Right.
We have to bring some sort of lightheartedness to this conversation because it's depressing. We broke him.
Dark side.
Okay, this segment has gone off the rails.
Oh, we're doing our best crappy Star Wars impression. Okay. Senator Palpatine. Okay. I think it's just an egregious offense in the contextually speaking of everything that has been said. This man don't even have a damn job. And when I last looked, he wasn't at the bottom tier of coaches. He wasn't on anybody's hot seat. And this man just, we're just gonna go a different direction
Hmm.
because this is what we do, and in matters of racism and discrimination, there's a lot of this. That's the quick. It is
Just
a.
realized I never went through what Brian Flores' situation actually was in my whole
No, you
diatribe
really
there.
didn't. That's why I'm just bringing it home. But as you could fill in the blanks. But
Yeah,
but the fact that the man don't have a job, I'm just getting right to the point.
yeah.
He's out of a job. Is it unfairly? Most can argue either way, but I think most would side. Yeah, something's a little fishy about this. Why? What the hell's going on?
You,
And
you can tell that something's fishy because
I'm talking about
when it,
from being released
yeah,
from Miami to what happened in New York. Not
well,
one
not
versus the
even.
other.
I mean, you can leave New York aside. What happened in Miami was fishy because we were all stunned when we got the news Brian Flores was being released from his duties in Miami. We were all like, what happened? Why? And we chopped it up as
Mm-hmm.
that's just a dysfunctional organization being a dysfunctional organization.
Right.
They're changing things up for the sake of changing things up. We didn't even think about the racial epithet that came with it.
No, I didn't. Because what's being preached to us in this Rooney Rule thing is, hey,
The Rooney Rule is a
things have
sham,
gotten
by the
so
way.
much better. You remember there were no black coaches, and then there was one. Now there's three. You see how that's.
I think
I,
the most we've ever had in the NFL was like 6.
I'll just make it. If you close your eyes really tight and just listen to the same story, you can almost take yourself back in time anywhere you want to go, and you've heard the same story almost damn near verbatim.
And the issue with that is that we become so desensitized to it that anytime that we hear it, we just start to tune it out.
Yeah.
And that's what they want.
Yeah, as opposed to reacting to it and each and every single time until this nonsense and this poison and hatred and just this waywardness just it's finally become something, it's challenged, it's checked, and it's dealt with, because
Why would I think that there's going to be anything different after the Super Bowl? We're
no,
going to be so high after
let's
having such a great game during the Super Bowl. We're not going to talk about
because
the fact that this racial issue is coming
that's what
up.
I'm saying. Exactly. Because where's the cover up? The cover up is look at all of these candidates getting offers for jobs and getting lined up for interviews. It don't matter if you're not even going to hire me.
With the fact that you
the Rooney
literally
Rule.
are just interviewing Brian Flores just because
The,
you have to.
I was gonna say thank you. The Rooney Rule. All that did is secure people of color candidates an opportunity just for an interview. That's all of that was. Not the same opportunities to get the job like anybody else, because what exactly does that criteria follow? It ain't just getting the damn interview. Because obviously they can sit there and size you up before when you walk through the door, and in Brian Flores' position, they can size you up days before your interview. And mistakenly, leak the information out to other people, and
And the person that leaked it is going to get fired, and they're going to be the scapegoat for the rest of the organization that was a racist POS.
yeah, I mean, am I surprised that racism runs rampant in America? No.
Absolutely not.
Am I surprised that racism has reared its ugly head in the state of New York? I didn't even bat an eyelash. Like, wow, that was no shock value here.
You know the crazy thing about the Giants in this whole situation, if we go back and look, one, they were the last team in the entire NFL to start an African American quarterback, Geno Smith.
Interesting.
They were also the only NFL team that has never had an African American head coach.
Interesting. And taking he had his issues in the state of New York and the state of Florida, talking about racism. Got to look at the political spin on all of this. Look at the states. You all make the connection. I don't want to go down there. It's just it all connects to some degree. Believe it, disagree, I don't care. Comment, I don't care. But my point being is, this is a very valid story. Um, it's coming from a fan aspect that I'm trying to gear up for a Super Bowl run and something. It's coming at a very weird time. However, it's coming right when it needs to come because it came up when it happened, basically.
True.
So it's just it's unfortunate in the sense of, damn, timing couldn't be worse for this to happen. But the point is, it should never be happening, you know. And of course, with this sham, like as you just stated, called the Rooney Rule, just guarantees you a possibility of a interview. Hint, hint.
When the job is already given away.
Yeah, quota filling.
Let's run through it really quickly. So, former Dolphins head coach Brian Flores files a lawsuit against NFL and 3 other teams, Miami, Denver, and New York, the Giants, for racial discrimination through the NFL hiring process. Like I said earlier, the lawsuit also alleges Dolphins owner Stephen Ross tried to incentivize Brian Flores to tank in the 2019 season for a better draft pick. And also former Browns head coach Hugh Jackson also alleges the same incentive-based structure for tanking was a proponent to his his just tragic record in Cleveland during that stint. So apparently he actually came out and said that he was actually received $750,000 in incentives to tank. So not necessarily telling us how much he was making per loss over there, but he was given that opportunity. Now, the thing about that is that, okay, that's 2 African American head coaches that have now stated that they have been given this incentive based for tanking. My question is, I have 2 questions. How many African American head coaches in the past have been given? There's not many of them, by the way. How many of them have been given this incentive pay structure or been offered money to tank games? And 2, is there a single white head coach that has ever been asked to tank games, whether to receive money or not? And speaking of cover-ups, we'll never know because the NFL will never allow that information to get out. You want to know how I know? It's because they literally covered something else up this week. And let's get to it. So let's start with some lighter news before we get into that. Washington has settled on their team name. It's the Commanders.
Yeah.
It sucks, and their uniforms are horrible, by the way. I don't know if you saw them. They are absolute trash.
Is it the same color scheme?
One of them is.
One of them?
Yep.
What do you mean one?
Their red one is the same scheme. It literally looks like the Washington football team, just with Commanders on the front. Whereas they have a black scheme that does nothing for me. It's black and gold. They basically look like a Pop Warner Pittsburgh Steelers clone. And they have an away white uniform with this ugly 3 times gradient with like polka dots in its numbers. It's ugly. You got to look them up and look at them later. The away uniforms are absolutely horrid. Those are the most disgusting thing I've ever seen.
What is a commander?
Something else that's racist. Want to get back to their history. Regardless, here is where the tragic news comes. Well, I guess it's actually good news because now we are actually getting some real information out of this. Because me and you both have stated that the probe that was going through and investigating the sexual assault allegations for the Washington football team were completely ashamed. Washington football team at the time, Commanders. Now I'm gonna have to get used to that. That investigation.
Roll off the tongue, right?
It doesn't. It's horrible. They had so many other options. So many other options for better team names, and they went with this one. And the only reason why they went with this one is because they figured that they weren't going to get a lawsuit for it. which is funny because now they're going through Congress, who a committee is now investigating them. So hilarious. But we have been talking about how we feel like there has been a major cover up with that investigation, and
Right.
the NFL to come out and say that there's nothing to see here. We've done our investigation. We found nothing. They're fine. Move on. Keep avert your eyes. Let's watch some football now and expect us to not say the hell was that. What? Give us some information. We both said that it was a sham, and we both said that it was some BS. Oh, are you still looking at the uniforms?
Yeah.
Sorry, he's making faces over here because
I'm just looking.
they're that bad. They suck. You can say it. They suck.
No, it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. I'm not sitting there getting excited.
Those are horrible uniforms.
I'm looking beyond. I started at the helmet. I like the helmet. I'm not even talking about the uniform. I think the Washington helmet looks nice.
I don't like the new W.
Oh man, come on.
No, I really I just adding the lines just doesn't like. I'm like, okay,
Trying to change identity.
just stay the Washington football team if you were going to do this. Regardless, back to
I was going to say all that to say that was really my son. Why don't you just stay the football team?
Yeah.
I like that. Y'all had that little college look, like that vintage college look. You know,
they're going in the wrong direction because now they look like a Pop Warner team with these uniforms.
Man, it's like, where's Shane Falco at?
Oh.
What are they? The Sentinels? That's what this is. Okay, moving on.
Back to so we both thought that this was a complete sham of an investigation that the NFL was doing to just cover up the egregious atrocities that were happening in this Washington organization. We were right. Let's just a round of applause for us. We said it. We called it. It was a cover up because the NFL, like I said, had previously stated that there was no written record of the investigation and its findings throughout this entire process, because the reason why there was no written record is because the investigation and its findings were reported orally to the NFL. And that's why they could not release any information, because they didn't have any documents to hand over to the journalist.
Wow.
Want to know why that is?
Why is that?
The NFL didn't disclose that they were the ones who asked the firm that was coming in to do the investigation to do the process orally. It was initially requested when the firm coming in to do the investigation, the independent firm was coming in to come do their investigation. The request was for it to be done in written oral, be a written record. And that's what Washington had applied for. The NFL stepped in and said, hey, we know we initially applied for a written record. We want this to be done orally instead. They covered it up from the get-go because what they found was that egregious. And on top of that, the committee came out and also said that they feel they were very skeptical of the NFL and their processes throughout this investigation process, because the NFL actually agreed with the Washington football team that throughout this committee hearing that they should be going through their defense strategy in joint legal strategy with the Washington football team. That the NFL was not going to be an independent defendant in this situation. And the committee stated that raised a ton of doubts that that everything that they had done, the NFL with their own investigation, that they were going to be an independent and be truthful behind the Washington football team's allegations.
Interesting. So those things have not happened.
Complete cover-up. The NFL just basically expunged any record of what the Washington football team did throughout Daniel Snyder's time while he was being investigated, or even during the time that there were allegations of sexual harassment and sexual assault in his building. The NFL did their investigation. I'm assuming, Now, this is speculation. This is only because Curtis Five's thought. Does not reflect the opinions of Curtis Four or the Square Studios. Basically, they had to have seen something so egregious that they were like, we can't have any record of this being on file. This cannot be shown. And they told the law firm to come in, do their investigation, but hey, we know you requested it to be a written record. Can't have that. Need to do this all orally. Hush, hush. Keep it under the table. Sign this NDA, by the way. And on top of that, even Congress, as corrupt as they are, see the corruption that is happening here and is like, hold on, wait, give us some information because that's fishy.
Right.
And if there is any, if this is any other entity, any other just regular old business, they would be hit with the furthest extent of the book.
Yeah.
But since it's the NFL and they make so much money and they have politicians in their pockets, they are the puppet master behind the NFL, the America cash crowd.
Breathe.
You cover up that, and on top of that, like the news of corruption from the NFL this week, it makes me so upset. You're going to, for one, legalizing sports betting is going to be a slog now for reasons throughout this lawsuit. I was already defeated as a black man because I knew that, first of all, this country was racist and that the NFL was racist, and that was never going to change. It was only hit home harder for me this week. And then, as somebody who would like to start a family in the future and might end up having daughters or has sisters, for there to be so much sexual assault allegations that were not properly investigated, and whatever was found out was so bad that it had to be expunged from the record. We're just, this week for terrible news is just beating me down.
Yeah. You want to know what the worst of it was, though?
Yeah, Kansas City lost.
Absolutely. Man, I have to bring that back to football now. But truthfully, that was the worst. And what made it the worst is it started with that.
Yeah.
Just the beginning of a very, very long downward spiral of all this week. And it's only Friday.
Only Friday. Oh, by the way, Houston is expected to announce their new head coach this upcoming weekend.
Where they're leaning. I know there was a few.
They're saying that Brian Flores is a finalist, which is hilarious to me. But it looks like it's going Josh McCown. So another white guy. And also Brian Flores is a finalist for the New Orleans Saints job, but also Eric Bieniemy is. So I would assume Eric Bieniemy gets that job if they do want to try to save face and say that, hey, we did hire an African American this cycle. New Orleans might be that spot. I have no idea what's happening in Miami to fix that job. And then there's one more job opening. Which one is it?
Oh my gosh.
Oh, Minnesota.
Just about to.
Minnesota doesn't have theirs, but technically the news is that Kevin O'Connell, another white guy, should be getting the job over there. But for some reason, it sounds like they're not going to announce it until after the season when the Rams are done playing, because Kevin O'Connell is the offensive coordinator for the Rams.
No takers for Leslie Frazier. Interesting.
No. Not that I've heard of. The greatest hope,
was the front runner for a lot of jobs.
The greatest hope for an African American to get a job is in New Orleans right now. So,
all right, that's that.
Yep. Well, that's all the headlines that I have. I don't know. Is there anything else? Any breaking news over the last? hour and a half.
Nothing that came across my phone.
Not either. So that's
Usually
that.
I'm on top, but it was nothing. It's been
Yeah.
quiet. It's Friday. Nothing going on right now.
I'm expecting Houston to announce Josh McCown tomorrow on Saturday. So
Okay.
because I don't think they will do it during the Pro Bowl.
It
So
was very interesting with this Jim Harbaugh situation. Speaking of this
yeah,
coaching thing, I want to get away from the black white just for a
yeah.
second.
Let's talk about that for a minute.
But yeah, I thought that was interesting, and let's see, came out to Minnesota with the intentions of it was his job to lose. It was basically just his job to turn down, and he
There,
walks away with no deal.
it. So what it sounds like is there's a bunch of speculation with what the hell happened in that situation. Because if I'm if I'm a prominent college coach on National Signing Day taking an interview for an NFL job, I'm basically saying, yeah, bump this college gig, bud. I'm going to the NFL. I'm going to the big show again.
Right.
Which is what we all expected. And when he took that when he took that interview, I was like, oh damn, Minnesota's about to get Jim Harbaugh.
I thought it was a lot.
I thought it was locked up. I thought it was basically a done deal. But apparently it wasn't, because there's speculation that the Minnesota Vikings organization, there were some people higher up that were not on board with Jim Harbaugh. And the speculation was that Mensa, the new GM over there, he apparently worked with Harbaugh back in, I believe, San Francisco. And so he has been a big proponent for him. Jim Harbaugh was talking about, hey, I want full roster control. I want this, that, and the other. And Mensa was probably on board for that. Whereas some of the higher ups were like, no, we hired you to take care of that. We're not giving that to Harbaugh. He couldn't beat Ohio State. Why are we letting him come in and try to take over the NFC North?
Right.
And apparently Harbaugh was under the impression himself that he was getting the job, and that's the whole reason why he came out. And when he quickly realized that Mensa was trying to get him to understand that, first of all, this is a real interview. This isn't like a sham interview like most things, but regardless. And that you've got to wow them. Right. And partially also you have to let go of the thought that you're going to have roster control, because that's not going to fly. Apparently he didn't do enough reconciliation before the interview, because goes in, does the interview, and gets back on a plane and shoots out a tweet saying, Michigan, it's all or nothing. We're going all in.
Wow.
So,
well, Minnesota, good way to shank yet another kick.
I was
saying.
That was a good one. I like that one. No, because I have the same sentiment, because when I saw that he was interviewing and I thought that he was going there, I was like, damn, they found a way to actually one up it, because if Aaron Rodgers leaves, it's Minnesota or Chicago to win this damn division.
Yeah.
And for all, let me get into my fandom here. For all these naysayers out here saying that Matt Eberflus is a bad hire, miss me with that. We needed a culture freaking change. I don't care that, yes, offensively we are one of the worst offenses in history, but we have guys, we've got players. We have a top 5 running back in David Montgomery. We have one of the best young talents at quarterback in Justin Fields. We've got Darnell Mooney, who was everything that we were hoping that Anthony Miller could have been, and more.
Oh, Anthony.
So we've got at least a number 2 in Darnell Mooney. If he can take another step and become a 1, awesome. If we can just go sign a number 1, awesome. Either way, I'm happy with that situation. We just need to add another receiver to the mix. Cole Kmet, he's a very, very talented tight end. And that is a guy that late in the season really came on for Justin Fields.
I'm in the top 15. Ooh, moving on.
Fix the offensive line, we're looking pretty good. And we've got a defensive-minded coach that can really get a mentality of, hey, we get back to the fundamentals and play tough football on the defensive side of the ball. Stop trying to get every single interception or fumble, and let's just secure the tackle for one.
Mm-hmm.
And two, I'm going to give all of my energy to building a roster around Justin Fields. And we are going to build a scheme to highlight the great things and the reasons why we drafted Justin Fields in the first place.
Right.
And on top of that, as a head coach, what I'm going to do, Matt Eberflus, I'm going to come in and just instill a culture of gritty, hard-nosed football. Come in, do your job, get to work, and become a team, become a group that meshes together.
Mm-hmm.
That is what we needed. We needed to get this. Like I said, Ted Phillips just exuded complacency into this organization. Matt Eberflus is going to come in here and I feel is going to sweep all of that BS out of the way because he's made it very clear. There's things that needs to be fixed with this team. Within his interviews and his one-on-ones and with his press conference, he's made it quite clear that he understands that there is a lot of stuff that needs to be cleaned up with the Bears organization for one, and with the team and roster for sure. He understands that.
Right.
But on top of that, he understands that there is a ton of talent on the team. We just got to hone in on those guys.
Yeah.
So, in the fact that the number one thing is to build around Justin Fields, let's get that done.
Yeah, it'd be good to see that for a change.
So, Chicago has a really good opportunity here. If Aaron Rodgers leaves the NFC North, if he gets out of here, this thing is wide the frick open for anybody who to take it. Whether it's Green Bay to take it with Jordan Love, if Jordan Love becomes anything worth a damn. Right. I mean, Minnesota has a really good structure for the most part. To me, you're paying $45 million to Kirk Cousins, a dude that nobody in Minnesota wants.
It's a charity.
So at that point, I am looking at it like, okay, Chicago has, if Aaron Rodgers is gone, Chicago has the only quarterback that is wanted by both the franchise and the fan base. In the NFC North. They're the only team with a quarterback that is wanted. They've got most of the pieces already set up offensively outside of the offensive line. Defense is pretty solid for the most part. Plus, Chicago has the most cap space outside of Detroit of any team in the NFC North. $38 million to go spend on fixing the holes that they have offensive line and defensive back. So why couldn't Chicago, with a new philosophy, come in and with the development of the young guys and leading with the young guys, come out there and play fantastic football next season? Where they were only a year removed from playing fantastic football 2 years ago. So, for people saying that Chicago has no chance at winning this division, as long as Aaron Rodgers leaves, I think Chicago should be not the odds-on favorite, but they should at least be number 2 to win the division this next season.
I mean, agreed, but it's not even a conversation I would even entertain at this time of year. Anyway,
you gotta wait to see what we do with the offseason.
Exactly. It's just like, you can get into the whole, how you gonna write my team off right now? That's how bad your team is. That's, it's kind of type of bickering nonsense like that. Can't even have a real conversation. It's the offseason. Got to see what's happening.
14 and 18 the last 2 seasons.
Yeah, it's just like, but at the same,
barely under 500.
We don't know anybody. Injuries haven't set in. Off-season injuries. I'm talking about. It's all kinds of factors that can't really have this conversation right now. And have a real one.
Yeah.
Outside of massive speculation, but for somebody to take it strongly, your team's gonna suck, dude. I haven't even had the time, hours in the day, minutes to even argue about something as subjective as that.
Yeah.
Like,
correct.
So, but with that being said, completely understand your sentiment. It's open season. That's what
I've just heard multiple times on sports talk radio. Chicago's got no chance, and if Aaron Rodgers leaves, this is Minnesota's division for the taking. Sorry, what? I'm sorry. Last time I checked, I didn't know that we were any team with a middling quarterback getting $45 million was the odds-on favorite to win a damn thing.
I'm gonna go further. If that was the case, what happened this year?
Ooh.
When I last looked, it was a 17-game season, and you play Green Bay twice. That's 15 other games that had nothing to do with Green Bay. So whether Aaron Rodgers is there or not, to your point, what in the hell? What? Okay, you got Kirk Cousins next year. Aaron Rodgers is gone.
Oh,
Aaron Rodgers don't play directly against Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins doesn't come in to blitz Aaron Rodgers, and Aaron Rodgers doesn't come to blitz, and try to sack Kirk Cousins. I'm like, what are you talking? It's getting bizarre at this point. And to your point, it's all that to say that for as much as anybody would love to say Minnesota would be the odd-on favorites to just run away with the division, it can equally be stated for Chicago, if not even for damn Detroit, for that matter. But it's absurd at this point. It's absurd conversation, especially when it's off season. I just can't get into a serious NFL conversation anyway. People have tried, and I pretty much stopped them in the middle. I'm like, I can't even do this contextually because we're skipping over so much, and like, what are we really talking?
The draft hasn't even happened yet,
right? And we just, man, let's talk, draft perspective draft
prospect
possibility scenario. Like, really, I'm just gonna sit here and reminisce about trade scenarios that have not even been speculated.
We haven't played the Super Bowl.
Right.
The season's not over.
Thank you. I'm like, can we just stay at this year? Like, bottom line, Chiefs are, still warm in the grave. This season, trust me, this season's not over. I'm still dealing with. I've just gotten myself back to a place where I can talk football again and look forward and find the angle as to what's gonna make this Super Bowl interesting, like a bunch of prop bets. So,
I actually put my first prop bet already in.
All right.
By the way, again, I think I teased it in the last episode. I am so disgusted with Cincinnati. All you needed to do was get Joe Mixon in the damn end zone. My parlay would have hit.
Yeah, they were spoilers in a lot of ways.
So annoying. Regardless, my prop bet is in. 4 legs, 4 touchdowns, anytime touchdowns for this Joe Mixon, Jamar Chase, Cooper Kupp, and who's my 4th leg actually on that one? I believe that it's Cam Akers, but I can't be 100% certain on that.
You didn't do OBJ?
I don't think I did. I might have, though. It's entirely possible.
I think he would be the riskiest.
Come on. Oh, my goodness. But regardless, there's one more guy on that one, and it's $25 to win $275. Wow. All 4 of them just get 1 anytime touchdown throughout the Super Bowl.
We got to discuss prop bets over the weekend because I've been waiting to try to figure out how we're going to do this. Anyway, moving on. I'm just saying, again, that's what's going to make the Super Bowl relevant for me.
The team that I took at the beginning of the season is
I'm annoyed with the Cincinnati part of this. I think this is a bad representation in the Super Bowl. I'm not saying they're a bad team. I ain't saying they're a bad team to be representing something. I think this is a bad representation in the Super Bowl. That's what I said. So, what do I mean? What I just said. I don't want my words twisted. I know exactly what I'm saying. But I'm gonna say it in advance. No, I We'll say Super Bowl stuff.
Yeah, next week you guys can get it. We'll get actually into previewing the game. He'll get over the Cincinnati stuff and actually be able to analyze and give some analysis on how this game might
I'll
go.
be talking about this for the next 40 years. Let me explain the one game that made no sense ever in the NFL.
Nobody wants to hear you nag on and on about a team that lost. No, kidding. I'm kidding.
Whoa.
I'm messing with him here. Well, we want to thank you guys at least for listening and sticking with us through that whole diatribe there. Let us know your thoughts down below. Am I being a bigot for thinking that the NFL is racist or
Yeah,
whatnot?
This story went.
This one
segment went kind of serious.
I mean, there's some serious allegations and there's some things that we've seen over and over again that we, as African American males, have witnessed and watched and have called out time and time again, and nobody listens. So it's becoming a recurring segment.
So during Pro Bowl week, what better time to get? Like I said, while we have a break, to get some other stories in, some things and related to the NFL, not necessarily what's going on right there on the gridiron. So, yeah, this has been quite a week. Starting Sunday night, this has been difficult for me. So it's we're some few days out and got about another week to go before I got to get this bad taste out of my mouth.
Yeah, well, we got a little while before we get some more football in our blood.
Yeah.
So we'll be holding on and holding out for that. Hold on here. I actually got my foreleg. Oh yeah, Cooper Kupp, Odell Beckham, Joe Mixon, and Jamar Chase all score one anytime touchdown. That happened. Yeah, I would say Odell should get a touchdown in his first time in the Super Bowl. That's the whole reason why he wants to be there.
I thought y'all be more brave souls.
Hey, that's four. That's a 4-leg parlay.
No, I hear it. I was like, I noticed that, and I've been listening to some sports betting on the radio as well, more so than I ever have been.
Yeah,
I never hear this guy's name ever mentioned in none of the prop bets, which is fascinating. I mean, fascinating. T. Higgins getting no love. I don't understand it. This guy, I get what's happening this year, and I get the risk. If for whatever reason, Mr. Joe Cool decided to go the other direction.
I don't have any problem with taking T. Higgins. To me,
safe prop bet.
A prop bet. Mine are all parlays. That's the reason why I don't allow T. Higgins to be in a part of my parlay, because just what you said. There is a time where Joe Cool will just be like, nah, screw it. I'm going the other way. I don't care. And that, to me, is too risky to put into a parlay where it's just like, okay, well, if Joe Burrow just goes, F it, I'm going to Jamar Chase.
I get it.
I have to stick with them.
Some parlays. Which makes
I got this one, the plus 1,100.
I'm just saying, just some parlays is really swinging for the fences. It is the risky play. I'm putting them in. Man,
I am trying to guarantee multiplying my money over here. And the risk that I'm taking is Odell Beckham. Odell Beckham is not a touchdown machine. It's just, to me, this is the Super Bowl. Sean McVay has to do whatever he can to try to get Odell Beckham to want to stay in LA, as he's going to become a free agent after the season. So catching a touchdown pass in the Super Bowl, you don't do that everywhere.
True.
As he already knows with 2 previous franchises he's been a part of. So
that's true.
If he catches one there, that's almost like, dude, come on. What else? What other what other thing do we got to put on our resume for you to come back?
Right.
So that's that. I mean, we'll probably get into more prop bets, and I'll probably make some more prop bets as we get closer to the Super Bowl. I'm waiting for those lines because most of the prop bets actually haven't been put out yet. Yeah. So I was fortunate enough to get that one. So we'll probably talk about more of that next week. So again, thank you guys for listening. Let's have a discussion in the comments down below. If you guys have any solutions to the multitude of issues in the NFL. Definitely, let's talk about that. This is a time for the next couple of days before we get into all of the fun and glitz and glam of the Super Bowl. Let's have a serious conversation beforehand, and then let's have some fun next week. So let's talk about it. Let's have a discussion, and let's just have fun going into Super Bowl week.
Yeah. Let's let's lessen the blow as much as we can. I'm sorry.
He's over here hurting, looking into Super Bowl week. So
it's man, I can't get up. I can't get up for Cincinnati. I'm sorry. You know,
you're gonna watch the Super Bowl. Don't try to come at me like you're not gonna.
This is New England Rams all over again. This is the same. I was the same way. I was just like, I don't like this Super Bowl. And let me just say, in the game played, and when it was over, I'm like, I really didn't like this Super Bowl. It just was. So I'm not saying that this one was going to be bad. I like this matchup a lot better than what happened 4 years ago. But I'm just like, man, Rams, y'all are putting out. I mean, y'all opponents have just been horrible in the Super Bowl this past decade. I don't like their opponents at all.
But you gotta run up to get there. They have been knocking off. So they have had some dog fights. So I mean,
it looks very good from one side, but a Super Bowl is always generally it's just that prototypical traditional.
Why I wanted the Chiefs to do it, but Andy Reid effed it up for all of us. So let's go ahead. We will catch you guys next week. We will preview the Super Bowl. Stay tuned. More stuff to come, but we'll get to that when the time comes. So thank you guys again for listening, and we will catch you guys in the next one.
Good night.